Renato Longato comes from Peru, and it's an interesting country regarding extraterrestrials because of its history of contact, the monuments there, and also because one of the most famous contactees living today, called Sixto Paz, is also from Peru. And Renato has been in the Rama group of Sixto. Before that, I think it's dissolved now. Yeah, used to be. And he has a recent book out that he's brought with him. And he has a long time experience with extraterrestrials and extraterrestrial contact and ufology. So we welcome you, Renato.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here in Norway for the very first time. And I'm really honored to share the auditorium. Yes? Is too low? Higher? Okay. So I have to ask that. Well, let me see. Maybe I need to. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that. Well, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here for the very first time in Norway. I hope to come back. You hear that, Terji? So it is an honor to be with Mr. Timothy Good, Alan Foster, and Terji, and Kristin, and the other researchers I forgot. Really, it's something special for me to share with you. I think that my life has been touched by this experience. And when you have this extraordinary experience, you cannot deny it, because it's part of your life, and it's also you deny yourself. Everything started with me in Peru in 1979, when I was 17 to 18 years old, and we were living outside Lima City. We were able to have 3 consecutive UFO sightings from my house in 3 different opportunities every 2 weeks, from first weekend of April to the first weekend of May, 1979. And to make the story short, I was able to have a psychic experience with a woman that looks like Eastern European or Nordic that mentioned to me that I had to use my mind. Imagine myself, 17 years old, trying to find out how to use your mind. You know, in that time I was a regular teenager, loved to stay with my friends on the neighborhood, play soccer, go to the parties, and look for girls, like anybody else. So I'm nothing special, you know. And anyway, what happened is that also, thank you, what happened is that also I, in 1985, have an extraordinary experience. I was able to be, to witness a contact with an extraterrestrial, let's say, outside of Lima. After 3 months, I was bombarded with a series of synchronicity events that told me and showed me a place where I have to go outside of Lima, on the east side of Lima, which is at the beginning of the Andes, a particular place that after 3 months, I resisted that. It was so overwhelming, I decided to go by myself, but in the morning, not at night. Because those experiences are not so romantic, as some people mention. They're not so beautiful sometimes. They're quite shocking, and really, really can change your life the way it changed mine. It's not an easy process because there is no manual or book how to confront these experiences. So that happened to me in 1985. In between, I became member of the Rama group. The Rama group started in 1974. My experience started in 1979, and I didn't have any connection with the Rama group. Afterwards, that I have this experience, someone in a private meeting told me to join this group. In that time was a small group of people, of Peruvians, having this amazing experience in the southern part of Lima, 63 or 67 kilometers close to the coast, because Peru is in the Pacific coast in South America. I became a member of this group, and we were able to see in a collective way all these UFO sightings in a pre-coordinated encounters. When we say pre-coordinated encounters, it's like someone of the group have more psychic abilities or more sensitive. He received communication, whether telepathically or automatic writing, saying, next week, next Saturday, 9 o'clock, we're going to show up. We want you to be there. We want you to fast, to do meditations and everything, and camp on the desert. So next week we went with a group of people, not too many people, just 6 or 12, no more than that. And on that Saturday, 9 o'clock, they show up. So that's the kind of experience I have in my background. And if you search in YouTube, Renato Longato UFO Skywatch, you can find how I was able to record pre-coordinated encounters with UFOs with more than 36 witnesses. And I can name and give you the names and last names and the emails of those people who has been with me. They were able to record, not with my camera, with their camera. I was able to do that in 2008 and on a Appalachian Mountains in Georgia with 36 people as witnesses. I was able to do that twice at the famous Iseti Ranch of James Gilliland in Washington State for 2 consecutive years with more than 40 or 60 people. The last one was with 100 plus witnesses. They were able to see that, and they were able to record with me the UFO exactly 9 o'clock. It's weird because it's always happening at 9 o'clock. There's always a pattern. So it brought me all these years to think very careful about the ET presence and to understand that it's rich and death is not so easy, really. It is complex. It is something that is tangled with reality, and as Timothy Good said before, it has to do with ancient cultures, perhaps with ancient civilizations, that we're trying to find out more about our own history and our relationship with them. I call them with a superior them. They, the aliens, that are visiting our planet, and somehow, some way, they are monitoring our civilization. How it's changing right now into a new era, into a new period of their own of our evolution to a new reality. So their reality, the extraterrestrial reality, is merging into ours. And that requires decades and decades to train and shape the collective consciousness of the human beings to understand that we are not alone on the earth. And that's a big change. And that has to require time, because we need to shape our worldview in order to understand that we are not alone, and we have the capability in the future, hopefully, to reap the spiritual and material benefits to be able to be out of this planet and to be able to even go to the solar system, just to our solar system, to understand the reality of the big picture around us. So that it requires really an amount of patience, an amount of wisdom, an amount of common sense that we have to face sooner or later. Whether we accept this reality or not, it's going to be unstoppable, because we don't have the power, in other words, to control this phenomena. They are the ones in control of this. We are not. We are not. So UFOs and disclosure in the United States is a complex reality. And we have to understand that we have entered an era of complexity. In the last 10 years, how many things have changed in history? How many things have changed in our society? We have disruptive technologies that we are now faced. We have to face the reality. We need them. Who would have thought about Google 10 or 15 years ago? Nobody. Who would have thought about Skype, able to communicate, to send documents long distance from different countries, from different cultures, getting more knowledgeable altogether? Who would have think the global challenges that we have to face right now? And that's the issue, because the extraterrestrials, they did not invite us before, they did not conquer us before, and I think, in my humble opinion, they're not going to come down and offer utopia. They're not going to come down and resolve our own issues that we have to deal with, and we have to face that reality. So we have global challenges. We have overpopulation. We are 7 billion right now. The house is getting crowded. We have climate change. We have to tackle that. We have a financial crisis. And believe me, that information was given to us in 1974, and then I found out the rest of the predictions from these extraterrestrials in 1988 and then in 1991. So we knew many things, but when you are much younger and someone tells you, you know, you in the future are going to win the lotto and you're going to buy a red car. You know, years pass by and say, well, that guy told me about this, and then you forgot. Then one day you buy a lotto ticket, you win some money, and then you buy a red car. Everything happens. The same information that we receive, the predictions, is right now almost 60% have happened. The other 40% is still going to happen. But predictions and prophecies can be changed if we make a shift of consciousness. They are not written in stone, because we have the willpower, if we have the love, if we have the understanding to change the current events, if we really, really want to change it. So we also have wild cards, it's unexpected events. They can be man-made or nature-made. You know, the Ring of Fire in all the Pacific coast is active right now. And we have tremors, quakes, and earthquakes. And let me tell you something a little bit anecdotal here. I'm a member of the Office of Internal Affairs, the Air Force, Peruvian Air Force, an honorary member. I'm not in the armed forces, the Peruvian Air Force. The office is named OIFA in Spanish. It's the investigation of aerial phenomena. The Air Force call it aerial phenomena. They don't want to call it UFO. They call it aerial phenomena. And as far as I know, one of the leading members is retired Commander Officer Julio Chamorro. And he mentioned it to me that a colleague of him in the same Air Forces find out that he was receiving a communication through his personal cell phone. The members of the Air Force, certain members, have a private network of communication. This private network of communication is just for specific information in the case of emergencies. So someone was sending him phone calls. So he was concerned that someone hacked his cell phone and they were getting information, or somehow, some way, they're trying to contact him. He didn't know what's going on. So once he went to the Air Force in a specific office and trying to find out that communications, who is trying to contact me, because any moment I receive this ring, my phone is ringing, you know, I see this number, but when I pick up, nobody answers. So they finally decided to take his cell phone, to disassemble, find the microcard and everything, find the number, and they finally decided to send it to the to their Office of Intelligence Service of the Peruvian Air Force. They finally came with the answer that the numbers were a longitude and latitude, and a specific location. This happened in 2005. And a specific location, 88 kilometers south of Lima City, on the coast, in a city named Pisco, close to the coast. There was a specific location on the sea, not on land, on the sea. 2 years later, the most powerful earthquake hit in that specific location, 7.8 earthquake, that killed more than 3,000 people. So the way they communicate is not only the way we think. They have a non-logical way to approach us in order to trigger us to think out of the box. We think they're going to communicate the way we want. That's why they have the power to communicate, the power to communicate with us the way they want to. They are in the power of contact. We are not. They are the one who decided. We are not. And I have more information about that. I will let you know and share with you information tomorrow. We also have a global political awakening. We heard, you know, in the news, the 99%, right? These groups that are getting more wild and furious, and they demand transparency, they want honesty, they want, you know, change in the economy, they want social changes. This is going to happen, and it's happening, and it won't stop. And then these groups can overthrow administrations and governments, because they're getting more and more tougher. They're getting more and more organized like never before, because we have the technology now to become aware. We have the technology now to cross information like never experienced before. We have that opportunity right now in virtual time, in real time practically. So this global political awakening is gonna change into a global spiritual awakening, because as a result of these social shocks and changes that we're experiencing right now, or we continue to experience that in the next following years, people will demand answers. People want to know what's going on Earth. But behind these changes, at the same time, we're witnessing the reality of UFO phenomena. It's very interesting. They are behind the curtains. They're waiting for us to wake up. And the way we're doing it is through social shocks, because people are demanding changes. And let's see what's going on the Middle East. The Middle East, sooner or later, it is a place where things are going to change and have a repercussion. You're going to have consequences even in the financial structure as we know it. Because the Western superstructure, let's say, the things that move everything is, in a few words, oil, dollar, and the financial market. And the three of them are in crisis. Whether we like it or not, the oil production is declining in certain areas of the world. Let's say 0.5%, 0.5%. But if you add that in 5 or 6 years, that's going to be 2-3%. We're talking about billions of barrels of oil. They told us 35 years ago about this. We're also going to understand that the dollar is declining everywhere in the world. If you look at the exchange rates in different areas in the world, the dollar is declining in a weekly basis. Just enough recently in South America, Argentina and Peru are buying dollars because they don't want their own companies, import and export companies, to lose millions or millions in transactions. If you buy something at $5, then they pay you back with a value of $4.75, you're losing $0.25. And that's too much money. And it doesn't work. But the American government don't want you to know about this. So the structure is very fragile right now. So we have the core of the superstructure, let's say, of the Western, financial system in crisis. That happened, the financial meltdown in 2007, and people have forgotten about that. When Lehman Brothers collapsed, it had the same equivalent, like one country. It's like Mexico have the same budget or amount of money, talking, in a very simple way, like Lehman Brothers. So one country went down, or Lehman Brothers went down, equivalent of all the GDP of Mexico. Just vanished, pulverized from the system. That's why we have these problems right now. That is that we don't have enough money for people who are being laid off, and they are going to continue to be laid off, because these things are happening, whether we like it or not. And behind these changes, you have the approach every year, every month, every day of the ET phenomena. So it is coordinated. They knew this was going to happen, so they're getting closer and closer to us. Because if we are in our comfort zone, if we're fine, we have enough credit, we have enough money, we have enough cash power, we don't want to change anything. But when things start to get hot, start to get the heat, and you start to feel uncomfortable, and there are social changes, then you start to review things. You start to believe what's going on here, and you have to think, we have to review, our belief system. And that's the important thing for us to happen, and that also is one of the clues with the extraterrestrial phenomenon here on Earth. So I wonder, when we have this information that Kenneth Arnold coined the term flying saucer, then it changed into UFO, unidentified flying object, according to the U.S. Air Force Army in that time, because the United States Air Force was after 1947, created after 1947. And I think that Kenneth Arnold was chosen by them to be witness of flying saucers in order to spread the news in the United States. If this would have happened in England or in France in 1947, would not have the same repercussions. Europe was devastated by the Second World War. That happened also in 1944 in the Soviet Union. There was a massive UFO sighting, but the former Soviet Republic didn't have free press. So nothing changed. It had to happen in the United States. So there is a pattern. In the United States, since 1947, they choose the perfect person with an impeccable background, a businessman, well respected in his own community, a person who, as soon as he landed his Piper plane, while he was flying over Mount Rainier in 1947, he saw a perfect formation of UFOs. He coined the term flying saucer, and then started the modern era of ufology in the world. So why didn't it happen in Cuba? Why didn't it happen in Brazil? Why didn't it happen in China? It happened in the United States for a reason. The UFO effect started to grow. There is a consequence of that. If you look at the history of the UFOs, you understand that there were some Cold War contactees. I call them Cold War contactees, which the most famous is George Adamski. Then you have Howard Menger and Daniel Fry. And if you look at YouTube, and the last interview before Howard Menger passed away, there are a 4-part series on Howard Menger interview. And in the third one, the third part of this documentary of Howard Menger, he says, and the extraterrestrials told me they will be back in 2012. He said that in the early 90s, before he passed away. He knew about that because he had this information. What happened with the Cold War contactees? First, you have 24th of June, 1947. Let's go back just to refresh our memory. Kenneth Arnold coined the term flying saucer, and everything changed. He landed his little plane and he said, I've seen flying saucers. Radio in that time, telegraph in that time started to spread the news. Someone saw flying saucers, but that was a respected person. Someone you cannot say you're crazy, you do this or you do that. No, that person was Kenneth Arnold, and he was accepted by his own community, and the information spread out like crazy. It changed. Then you have the UFO crash accident in July 1947. And then you have Air Force Colonel Nathan Twining of the Army of the United States saying that UFOs are real, they are material objects flying in our skies, and they are not belong to the Earth. You have those 3 events in June, July, and August 1947. At the same time, it started the modern era of ufology. So it is coincidental that these things happened in 1947, right after the Second World War and the beginning of the Cold War. And in the beginning of the Cold War, you have what? The contactees. First, and I want to remark this, I want to repeat, flying saucer is a new word in the vocabulary, right? Then you have contactees. It's a new word also. You need a concept, you need an idea, you need to understand that. You have to be on the news. Contactee, what it means contactee? Someone who claims to have a contact with extraterrestrials. Imagine that in the early 50s. People talking about that, have the courage to talk about that in the early 50s, 60 years ago, let's say. Say, I've seen a UFO, I've seen an extraterrestrial, and I have a contact there here in California, near the desert. George Adamski said that. Then you have Daniel Fry, then you have Howard Menger saying the same thing. And the 3 of them, there were others as well, but the 3 most well-known Cold War contactees, as I call them, all of them talk about the dangers of atomic bombs, the dangers of radioactivity, and the pollution of the environment. The 3 of them. Of course, they were not the only ones. If I'm not wrong, one of the best minds in his time, Bertrand Russell, he also was concerned, and other intellectuals, of the spread of this new weapon of mass destruction, that is the atomic bombs. In the 50s, then it comes because our technology and our scientists make another great discovery, the hydrogen bomb, with capability to overkill humanity. And we still continue with biological weapons. So we are a very wild bunch here on Earth. We're very special. So if you have a higher civilization concerned about our development, they will look at us and say, well, these kids are playing with fire. Something's going to happen sooner or later. That makes sense. And you are in a part of a whole civilized, sophisticated civilization beyond our comprehension. You will send a team to this blue planet in that corner in the universe to find out what's going on with them. And you train these, quote, messengers or extraterrestrials to telling, study these cultures. And they came back and said, you know what, I found that there is a country that have the most atomic weapons in the world. They have the currency worldwide. They have the cheapest oil in the 50s and the 60s and in the 70s. And you see the satellites and the flags are orbiting the planet is the United States. But at this very same time, these people are trying to control and manipulate and stereotype our presence. We don't understand these guys. What's going on Earth? So you have the Cold War context is talking about the dangers of atomic destruction. In the 50s, I have to remark again, contactee was a new vocabulary, a new word, because we have to understand that meaning, flying saucer contactees. Then you have the word, UFOs and media. And of course, you go to B films from Hollywood, that always talk about, the invasion from Mars. All this Hollywood media in the 50s was all about invasions, was all about fear. The Green Menace or the invasion, everything. So everything happened in the 50s, very interesting. But in the 60s, you have a new term. First, flying saucer. Let me remark this because I consider it's important. Then you have the word contactee. Then you have the word abductee. What? Abductee? What is that? Someone who claimed I've been abducted by aliens. Imagine that. Someone came, knocked the door of a doctor or psychologist and said, hey, I need to find out what's going on. I have these weird dreams of grays, of people taking me from my bedroom, being analyzed and tested on this place, this spaceship, and then bring me back. But I'm clueless. I cannot do anything. And the problem is, not even police can help you, because we're not talking about a person, another human being, taking you out of your house, kidnapping you and bringing you back. There is something beyond. The police have no clues about that. At the same time, the abductees have to go to where? To psychologists, to psychiatrists, to find out about these recurrent dreams. So a new discipline will develop also through John Mack, to Bud Hopkins, in their own way, to find out what's going on. Is this an imagination? Is this person wants have an ego problem? He wants to be, popular. I'm being abducted, I'm being a contactee. So I'm a special in society. I've been touched by, the extraterrestrials. There is something going on. We cannot deny that. Who was the people, or who was the couple, who talk about that, being abducted in 1961? Betty and Barney Hill, if I'm not wrong, right? Betty and Barney Hill. But wait a minute. What was happening in 1961 in the United States? Again, Kenneth Arnold, flying saucer, the contactees in the United States, Daniel Fry, Howard Menger, George Adamski, the pioneer of contactees. Then you have in the 60s, what? Abduction. By whom? A biracial couple. Wait a minute. Something is going on here. I have a racial couple in 1961, when the United States was going through the movement of civil rights. 1961, when the United States was going through the movement of civil rights, and Martin Luther King was talking about human rights, the extraterrestrial decided to abduct a biracial couple. Why? They don't have enough white people to be kidnapped or abducted? You know how many million people were in the United States in that time? I checked the census. I checked the statistics. What? 130 million people. Every 1,500 or 1,500 were a biracial couple. And they decided to choose a couple and adopt them, to create stir in the public opinion, to create attention, to draw attention to them. In 1964, what happened? They were on TV, they were on radio. And if you are able to listen to the records in that time of the therapy, done by the doctor who was in charge of the hypnosis of the Betty and Barney Hill, it's horrible. It's really, really scary. when they start to describe they're approaching to us. We cannot escape. Oh my God, what are they doing? And trying to run away. They can't. And they have their experience, abductees. And everything started to change. That was in 1961. But what else happened in 1961? Who was born from another biracial couple? The actor president of the United States, Barack Obama. What happened also in 1961? There was a powerful geomagnetic storm. Remember, every 11 years we have a powerful geomagnetic storm. That happened in 1961. What else happened in 1961? It happened that there was a very well-known prediction by a group of 4 children in Garabandal, Spain. That was mentioned by Terji yesterday. The Maria Conchita's predictions of Garabandal, the Bergen apparitions of the Madonna, also happened in 1961. Very interesting. I suggest you to check about this information of the Garabandal predictions, which I have in my book also as a research. Then you have, as a result of these UFO interactions and all this information, the creation of organizations. People got together and they said, we need to find out more information about this. Then you have NICAP, National Investigation Committee for Aerial Phenomena, you have APRO, and you have MUFON, the first organizations. So humans got together, get interested in this, people who have high caliber witnesses, pilots, people from the army, civilians, they decided to get together and said, we need to find out about this, this is real. I'm talking about late 50s, early 60s. When this happened again, whether we like it or not, in the United States, NICAP, APRO, and MUFON. As a result, you have branches worldwide. You have in other countries, being members of MUFON, and NICAP, and APRO in that time. And they have a network. Everything started within time, in the 40s, in the 50s, and in the 60s. Then you have their government reports, Project Blue Book, Condon Report, Robertson Panel, and the Sturrock Panel. Very interesting, each of one. Maybe they're misleading or not, it is a fact in ufology. You have to go through that and, trying to find out what is information. All these reports have talked about the UFO presence. So everything has started to evolve exactly from 1947, right after Kenneth Arnold witnesses and coined the term flying saucer. And then you realize there is a pattern here. There is a pattern they're following because they have all the time. We don't have all the time. They do have all the time to shape things in a culture. So is there going to be an imminent contact or UFO disclosure, you think? The ETs are in control of the contact? I don't think so. Are we in contact, empowered to have the contact with them? I don't think so. We are not. I think they are in control of the contact. We are not. You follow each story of the contact. The most serious contactees, all of them will tell you, I will receive this telepathical information. I had this dream, I had this vision, or I saw this UFO landing in front of me. They are the ones who started it. We humans don't start it. They are the ones who started it. You follow really who was, real serious contactee. They can offer witnesses, they can offer photos, they can offer videos. Some way, somehow, they were called to have a contact with them. And what we have here is part of the ET movie, E.T., the extraterrestrial, that was made by Steven Spielberg. And then you think, why on Earth, on the movie, you have a French scientist coordinating the whole encounter, not an American? Because it was based, of course, with Jacques Vallée, the legendary, iconic UFO researcher, Jacques Vallée, who worked close to John Allen Hynek. And according to the movie, they were able to have a coordinated encounter with extraterrestrials. At the very end of the movie, if you remember the movie, with Richard Dreyfuss, the one who became obsessed, with the place to go there in Wyoming, which is 60% owned by the American government. The territory is 60% owned by the American government. So it's a specific place, it's a good place to control a contact, if there is going to be a contact, okay? And then the extraterrestrials choose Richard Dreyfuss, not the people who are chosen by the government to have contact with them. They always choose a John Doe, a John Smith, an Annie Smith. They always choose someone not important, not in a high rank of society. They always choose someone, a civilian, someone who have no clue and is thrown into this new reality. That is why it's complex. That is because it's different. That is because they want to trigger on us a tremendous curiosity and perhaps a passion that can last a lifetime. So Joseph Allen Hynek, born in 1910 and then passed away in 1986, and Jacques Vallée, they were working together, and according to the Jacques Vallée research, he found in the files of Joseph Allen Hynek the Pentagon Memorandum. The Pentagon Memorandum is a letter who was directed to the higher ranks, echelons of the Air Force, of NASA, the Pentagon, and other agencies regarding how to manipulate information and how the government, since 1953 and before that, nobody knows exactly the time, they were already conducting research with thousands of soldiers, airmen in the United States territory, pinpoint the places where there's hotspots of UFO activity and filming and recording and photographing the UFO activity, without letting the public to know about that, without letting know the taxpayers where the money was from, in order to understand this phenomena. So yes, the US government already knew about this before 1953, trying to find out, and even though trying to mislead the public opinion with fake UFO sightings. And then you have a scientist showing up, quote, cold, everything arranged under the table, and said, no, that's a gas from the pounds. No, those are birds. No, that's a satellite. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not trained. I'm a scientist. So people start to change their mind and say, well, the scientist might be right. That was not a UFO. That was some sort of phenomena that I don't understand. These people are from the academia. These people are prepared. They know better than me. So everything starts to change, and you have a different opinion, a mix of opinion. That's very interesting to manipulate public opinion. That is the other agenda that has been going on since the very beginning of the modern era of ufology in the United States. So Jacques Vallée reveals in his book Forbidden Science, which I recommend you to read, when the UFO cover-up started and its implications. The Pentagon letter was dated June 18, 1967, prior to the Robertson panel that was created in January 14, 1953. And it says here, if I'm not wrong, it is directed to also all these people here. I'm sorry because the letter is a little bit tiny, but it's also directed to Michael Ruppel here. And it's saying that, quote, this letter concerns a preliminary recommendation to ATIC, which is an organization, on future methods of handling the problem of identifying aerial objects. This recommendation is based on our experience to date in analyzing several thousand of reports on this subject. We regard the recommendation as preliminary because our analysis is not yet complete, and we're not able to document it where we feel it should be supported by facts from the analysis. We, this panel, secret people, are making the recommendations prematurely because of a CIA-sponsored meeting of a scientific panel meeting in Washington, D.C. on January 14, 15, and 16, 1953, to consider the problem of, quote, flying saucers. The flying saucers, the CIA sponsored the meeting, and it's being held subsequent to the meeting in this place, CIA, ATIC, and so forth. So the Central Intelligence Agency was in charge of this. And of course, it's the intelligence service of the United States. So they were not allowed, they will not in a million years allow the public to know about this. They rather cover up. They rather efficiently even mislead scientists, giving them second-class proof or second-class witnesses in order to cover up. So the Scientists bite the hook, and they finally said, no, this is a phenomena, this is satellite and everything. High-ranked scientists, like the panel Robertson, one of the members was a Nobel Prize winner, among others, physicists and astronomers, high recommended by the own government, used by the government to mislead the people. It is unbelievable, but that happened already in 1953. So they knew this is going to happen because they know if they continue, if they really spread the real information what was going on, instead of educate the people to a new reality, look how many decades we have lost. Instead of educate the people to understand there is a higher reality here, we lost that time. That's what we have all the people doing by themselves, trying to find out the piece of information and to educate ourselves. I think it's so complex that nobody has the last word, the last answer here. It is really rich and complex because we have to understand that these civilizations or this group of extraterrestrials are really trying to make contact with us in their own way, under their own methods, not the way we think. And if they are considered the superior them, the real aliens from outside coming into our reality and trying to merge with us, we have to understand the consequences of a coherent, organized encounter, the consequences of a coherent, organized encounter of an ancient civilization with our planet. How do you think we're going to react if that happened tomorrow or the next year or the next 5 years? How we think we're going to, the leaders are going to react since we have enormous problems to tackle. Global, financial crisis, we have a declining oil production, we have the dollar getting weaker and weaker, we have the problems in Greece, we have the problems in Spain. Wait a minute, what do that have to do with the UFO? Have to do a lot. It is part of our reality. At the same time, they knew this was going to happen. But the problem also is that how our leaders are going to react to this new reality. How they're going to manage this caliber of situation. Because if you realize that they want the UFO disclosure, I respect that movement, the UFO disclosure movement, but I don't think they're going to have any result. No matter how many faxes and letters you're going to send to the White House or to NASA, they're going to accept it, period. Do you really, really think that Barack Obama, which right now is trying to get reelected, okay, with all the problems they have in immigration, in financial system, and all the social problems that are going on in the United States, and I know because I live there in America, is going to wake up one day and, call a press conference and say, I'm going to release all the information about UFOs. The very next day, his wife, Michelle Obama, is going to divorce him. See, what are you doing? You're a politician. You have to save your skin. What is going to happen? He's going to lose everything. You have to think as a politician. He has invested so much, and there are so many corporations behind him, of course, giving him money, that he's going to change everything overnight. And that's going to change what? What is going to change? Everybody is going to be peace and love tomorrow after the UFO disclosure? All our problems are going to disappear like a cosmic abracadabra? Do you think the radiation in Fukushima is going to just go away because we pray to the Ascended Masters? Do you really think about that? Well, I respect that. I personally don't think so. If not, that would have happened, right? So, misleading information to the Robertson panel. There was a massive view of skywatch surveillance done by the government in hotspots before 1953. That's the Pentagon memorandum that Jacques Vallée found on the archives of Joseph Allen Hynek, while he was doing a reorganization of all the massive data that Joseph Allen Hynek had all these years that he was involved in different projects as a special envoy member of the armed forces in the United States. So what we have right now as of 2011, the budget of the CIA is $14.6 billion in secret operations. because the real budget of the CIA, nobody knows it. But what we know is that we have an extra $14.6 billion to secret operation. Let's say just $1 billion go to cover up the UFO presence. Let me tell you something, another anecdote, because I have many anecdotes here to share with you. In 1985, the Russians approached the Peruvian government because they found out that the northern coast of Peru, there was a crash of an unknown object. And they went to the president, in that time was Alberto Fujimori, in that time, Peruvian-Japanese president, and they mentioned it to him that we want to go 50-50% with you. You let us go into your national territory, we're all with our scientists, we're trying to recover whatever debris, something happened there, because there is a plenty of UFO activity, and we have all the photographs with our satellites. And even with the Soyuz in that time was orbiting the planet, they pinpoint that place, and they wanted to go with the permission of the Peruvian government to pick up whatever it was there. 3 months later, the police found a group of black helicopters flying around in the area. Since the police is not capable to stop a team with black helicopters, they sent the Peruvian army. While the Peruvian army tried to reach the area, the black helicopters and the teams, wherever were there, camping illegally in Peruvian territory, left the country. And with that, whatever it was on the ground. Later on, the Peruvian government find out that in that area is rich in uranium. Where these black operations came from? Just imagine $1 billion from the CIA to cover that, and to fly to any country in the world to find out any UFO craft, anything related to UFO phenomena. Entering illegally other countries in order to pick up any information, because if you have information is knowledge, knowledge is power. Sooner or later, you pick up some technology, alien technology, 10, 30 years, 40 years, whatever time, sooner or later we'll find out. And with that, you have access to weapons of mass destruction or sophisticated technology that we think, it come up through research. Sometimes it's not like that. You have the Pentagon, who have $525 billion in their budget. And the United States Air Force, $170 billion in their budget. But you have an interlock connection of the Pentagon, the CIA, and the Air Force covering the UFO phenomena successfully for more than 50 or 60 years. And do we think there's going to be a UFO disclosure tomorrow? I don't think so. Because it's a complex situation. And if we do tomorrow, it's too much to handle. It's too much. It's overwhelming. What happened to Wall Street? It's already in crisis. It's not good to the financial system to stop the engine overnight. We will go down. What will happen to the Vatican, which is the organization that has been around in history for more than 2,000 years? And now the Vatican, since 2008, and the members of the Astronomical Observatory of the Vatican, under the Father Funes, which is a Jesuit. He's an astrophysicist, and he's a philosopher, and he's a priest. He published in the L'Osservatore Romano, the official version of the Vatican, the Vatican Observer, the title, The Extraterrestrial El Mio Fratello, The Extraterrestrial is My Brother, 2008. I think that the Vatican is even playing his cards to introduce a new cosmology, to introduce a new belief system into the major religion in the world. Because it's the only religion that can do that. Do you think that the Baptists can do that? Or the Methodists can do that? Or other religions can do that? If the Vatican goes forward, the other religion will go with them. Why do you think each president of the United States have to go to Rome and introduce himself to the Pope? Hey, something's going on here, right? Something is going on. So the picture is now so easy to understand. It's a little bit complex, and we have to understand that for some reason, ironically, the United States is denying this information to their own people, and as a consequence to the world. One of the best books I also recommend is also High Strange Events in Point Pleasant City, happened in West Virginia in 1967. It's about the UFO activity, Men in Black, and the secret members of the United States Air Force intelligence were involved. That happened during the Mothman activity in 1967. John Keel was one of the best UFO researchers in his time in the United States, of course, and he practically wrote his activities every day, like an agenda, what was going on in that town, all the high strange phenomena related to the Mothman activity, to this unknown entity who was causing all these problems, and also people, human-like people who interact with humans, and they were able to have an interaction with humans in order to get specific information. Most of the people who have contact with these human-like creatures have some loss of time and space. They have eye infection, and they also have these nightmares after these encounters. And he described, and I don't have time to describe it in my lecture right now, how this happened every day with name, dates, and people involved in that time in this research while he was writing all the activities related to the Mothman. That, if we remember, there is a movie about that with Richard Gere, the Mothman Prophecy, what happened afterwards. So, are they here? Yes, they are here. Are they doing this interaction with humans? Yes, they are. Do the United States know about this? They do know about that. It happened in 1967, years ago, 40-some years ago. Look at this. Yeah, the reaction is also funny, right? The reaction is funny. UFOs and public perception. This is very interesting because, as the Romans used to say, you got the mind, you got the man. And if you don't have, you lose the critical thinking and you react emotionally, like make you laugh. If you go to any gas station in the United States, before you leave, you see that. Nobody buys them. Who pays for that? To print thousands in most popular places, gas stations and malls and Walmarts and everything in the United States, and you read that Hillary Clinton's adopted an alien baby. Ah, you laugh, you know, Hillary Clinton is adopting an alien baby. It's so funny. You know, I saw bodies of dead aliens at Top Secret Air Force. He's an actor. He used to be a former comedian actor. So the government going to allow a comedian actor to see bodies of dead aliens, not a scientist. Hillary Clinton is carrying a baby. In a, you know, like a mother carrying a baby because she have adopted a baby. But what happened is a psychological operation to trigger emotional response and to block critical thinking. So people get mixed signals. Then you have the media. The media is also, you know, talking about invasion, the end of the world, and all this stuff. So what happened is the public mass, the public perception get mixed message, and you don't know how to react. And then you have doubts. Because even though you don't buy this newspaper, or you don't buy this materials, it stays in your mind. Even you look at a fraction of a second. But if you are in the hypnosis, and they said, what did you have done yesterday? I went to the gas station and I was leaving and I feel so funny because I saw this cover in this newspaper, you know, I saw this Hillary Clinton adopting an alien baby. It's in your mind, then it's affecting that. Because the more people, and this is the latest research, very interesting, trigger emotional response. Emotional response, the more dopamine you get in your brain, according to the neuroscientist. The same thing happens when you have these Nintendo games, PlayStations. You're trying to win, right? It's a virtual reality, right? You're trying to fight a war or whatever on the TV, on the screen. It's not real, it's virtual. But you are releasing a higher level of dopamine, and you become addicted to that. And you become addicted, you're owned. Huh? And you see all these old versions, because there are new modern ones, but I don't have time to buy this stuff and take photos of all that. It's just an example how it works. You don't know if the CIA owns part of this company, which I think they do. Because CIA keeps a relationship with prominent national and foreign media sources, in addition to ownership or stock on several newspapers and magazines around the world. So the best way is to confuse people and make them live ignorant about this bigger reality. Because the moment the public wake up, because they're paying their taxes and demand transparency and information, nobody can stop them. So it's better to make them confused. So you don't have to worry about that. Here in Bergen or in Oslo, in Norway, you don't have to worry that there can be an alien invasion. Because according to the media, you know, Hollywood and the collective imagination, aliens always will attack New York and Los Angeles. Right? When you see a movie, it's New York, you know, all these heroes, all these transformers coming and destroying, smashing all these skyscrapers, you know, and come the hero. You know, Captain America and all the, you know, Marvel action heroes, and save the world. If not, it's going to be Los Angeles, you know, so you don't have to worry about it. Nothing going to happen to Norway, to other countries. It's always going to be Los Angeles and New York, you know, but it's always going to be the Americans saving the world at the same time, right? You know, so the Marines in this movie save the world. Remember, the Marines are so good that are deployed in Iran and Afghanistan, but they can save the world against alien attack. Right? If you see the other side of this reality, it's very interesting. Because let's go back. What happened in 1947? Kenneth Arnold coined the term flying saucer, right? Then you have the Cold War contactees. The first time it appears this word, contactee, someone who claimed to have contact. 60 years ago, imagine that. Then you had the first case of abduction. There has been other abduction cases, but it happens in the United States. Because, listen to this, a contactee, let's say, works in Cuba. A contactee is going to be spreading information in China or in Russia during the Cold War. It had been in the United States because of the free press, media, purchase power, the status of the United States. Immediately goes to other countries, immediately. But a contactee would not work in the Fidel Castro regime. A contactee would not work during the Yuri Andropov and all these prime ministers, Russian Soviet prime ministers, on the 50s, 60s, and the 70s, until Russia collapsed. It doesn't work even in China, because it's controlled by the government. You don't know what's going on completely in China. It would work a contactee or George Adamski in Brazil? No. So we have to look the extraterrestrial phenomena, the richness of this phenomena, transcend the phenomena to understand there is an approach to our cultures on behalf of this superior them, which are the aliens, the extraterrestrials. At the same time, we have to go to the abductees happening in 1961 from now on, and then in the 70s. What happened in the mid-70s? Contactee groups around the world. Contactee groups around the world. You have Enrique Castillo Rincon, the famous Costa Rican contactee that many people have forgotten about him. The famous Costa Rican contactee, they have 4 times contact with witnesses. He was taken under his permission to a hospital in the United States, in Washington, put under hypnosis with drugs, and he told the whole story, and it was recorded. He tells you in his book, Enrique Castillo Rincon, one of the best contactees in the world. But it happened where? In South America. Between 1971 and 1975, if you look at the story of ufology and contactees, you have who else? Billy Mayer. Then you have who else? Jean-Claude Bourillon, Rael, the Rael movement. What happened afterwards as a result of this contact is a different subject, is a different lecture. Because after you have these contacts, what happens the day after effect? Let's say something. Excuse me, what's your name, sir?
What?
His name, yes.
Huh?
Pel Eva. Okay. Let's imagine you know, we finish this conference and everything, and you live, let's say, 2 hours from here. So you jump in your car, you drive, and then your car stops because you see a UFO landing in front of you. You get out of your car, the UFO is glowing there, and then there's a gate open, and then extraterrestrial came out, and they said, I had to give you an information. You exchange information with him, the UFO just disappear, or wherever it came from. You get back in your car, and you go to your home, and you tell your wife or your friends, I've seen a UFO. But beyond that, I have a contact with the extraterrestrials. Next day, you're going to face reality. Next day, it may affect your relationship with your family. It may, depending who you are, a policeman, a judge, or a common citizen, it may affect even your workplace. It may affect even your consciousness. Maybe you're going to start a new cult. Maybe you decide, I don't want to deal with this because it's too much for me. I cannot risk my reputation. I cannot put in danger and jeopardy my relationship with my wife and my children. I don't want to talk about this. So that's the day after effect, after you have a contact with an extraterrestrial. But what happened in the 70s, going back to my lecture, it happened, the contact, Enrique Castillo Rincon, Billy Mayer, Jean-Claude Bourdillon, the Rama group where I used to belong, and the famous case of abduction of whom? Travis Walton, with more than 5 witnesses. 25 years before the new millennium. So these contact groups were able to spread their information, after the contacts, create groups, create awareness with the common people to introduce themselves in society like agents after an extraordinary experience. This extraordinary experience was promoted by whom? The extraterrestrials. And then what you have the perfect guinea pig. Let's put it this way. The perfect guinea pig to find out what he's going to do with his experience tomorrow. How it's going to change. But my friend, you are from Norway. So your cultural background is different from mine. Let's say from Enrique Castillo Rincon, because he comes from a Catholic country with a different social fabric in Latin America. It's different from Billy Mayer, who comes from a high developed society in Switzerland. Latin America, or unorganized, all wild, crazy, we like to dance salsa, make jokes, and have a good life. But in Switzerland, it's different, right? But you have a contactee from Switzerland, it's different their approach. You have a Jean-Claude Bourdillon, which is also related to all French-speaking countries. You have Travis Walton in the United States claiming, I've been abducted by extraterrestrials. I have friends that witnessed a light, a glowing thing, and it disappeared, was swallowed by this light, and they thought, even the police thought, my friends are trying to kill me. So what you see here is a pattern, in my opinion, of ETs working as cosmic anthropologists and the contactees or the contact group as a social laboratory to see what's happening in society in different cultures. It should have worked in China again in the 70s? No. Maybe there are contactees in China, we don't know exactly what's going on, but perhaps they're in jail. Right? It happened in Russia? Perhaps it happened in Russia, but do they spread the message? Not that I don't know. And even though I will go further, if you check these contactees, you're going to find two kind of people. Let's put it this way, put it this way. Caucasians and Hispanics. If I'm wrong, let me know, because I want to know. So if you slide the reality like you peel the onion, each time you peel it, you go to the core, you find out something is going on, something big is going to happen, because it makes sense since 1947 till now. At the same time, it's ironic that the United States is covering everything. What they're playing is with fire. It's a bomb that is going to explode in their own hands, because you are lying to the people. Because a lie cannot last longer. And because you think you are smart. You think you are smart than the extraterrestrials. It is bizarre. It is ridiculous. They have the meaning to come here to collapse time and space, wherever they're coming from, the Pleiades, the Sirius, whatever. Be here, interact with us, and come back. Even though they have the capability to send holographic information, holographic images. And we think we're looking at a UFO, but it sits in our mind. It's like sending an email. Boop, They don't need to come here. They can send wherever they are from, wherever their base are located in the moon, in Mars, or in the planet. They don't need to fly and come here. They don't have to. So you start really to think beyond the transcendent phenomena of the extraterrestrial presence. You think that we are going through a process of careful examination in order to welcome a new reality in the near future. Because we are in a turning point in history. Because we have to tackle global challenges. And we have to get together no matter what to tackle this. Because Norway is part of the planet, right? And what? We live in systems within systems. It's very interesting. We live in systems within systems. If the environment or the biosphere collapse, all the other subsystems start to collapse. And what we have here, Barack Obama, you know, and then think what will happen. We have an African American being president of the United States. And there are people that they don't like that in the United States. They don't like that. They don't like that, but that's the reality. You have what? Also in the 70s, very interesting. Listen to this. Martin King Herbert was a uber techno-prophet. I like to call him uber techno-prophet because he predicted that in 1970, the declination of American oil production. And the National Academy of Science ended up saying, yes, Mr. Hubert King, when you started to say your theories and research in the early 60s, we told you and we said to the media you were wrong. But in 1970, what happened? Hubert King was right, because since 1970, the American oil production started to decline. And with that, the finances start to change in the United States. What happened in 1971? Bretton Woods Treaty was terminated unilaterally by Richard Nixon, and you don't have the gold supporting dollar. It's floating the exchange. Because the war in Vietnam really affected the budget, the federal budget of the United States. So they knew, in my opinion, these entities, these intelligences knew what's going to happen in the most powerful country in the world. And that's why you have these contactees, abductees, contact groups, exactly when? In the early 70s, when this is happening. With the declination of oil production. So they need oil from where? The Middle East. And they get trapped there because they need more, and then you have to concede political treaties. You have to do negotiations under the table. You have to support regimes that are dictatorial. And right now they're changing. Nobody can stop that. And then you have in 1972 by scientist Francis Crick, the directed panspermia theory, that the first science of life that created life on Earth, to put it in simple words, came from extraterrestrial civilization. According to Francis Crick, DNA scientist, Nobel Prize, who decoded the DNA, you know, in the late 50s, he said in 1972 that the first sense of life, of molecules and microorganisms that came from outer space, it's impossible to survive all the cosmic rays, gamma rays, X-rays in the universe. It's impossible. Someone sent him to land on Earth to start a cycle of life here. And according to him, it was an extraterrestrial origin, an intelligent extraterrestrial origin. When this came with this theory, after he had a meeting with the SETI version of the SETI organization, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, in Russia. What other people was also in that meeting? Carl Sagan, besides Francis Crick. That happened in the 70s, right? So if you put all this together like a puzzle, it starts to make sense. And then what you have in October 1973, the Arabian oil embargo. They get tired of all these problems with the Palestinians and Israel, and they decided, you know what, we have the oil here. So we're going to declare, we forgot it because, you know, many of you are very young. But I'm old enough, I remember when I was a kid in 1973 in Peru, you have an even number in your car tag. You don't drive Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But if you have an uneven number in your car tag, you can drive your car Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. The rest of the people have to walk or take the bus. And that happened worldwide. If that black male from Saudi Arabia, which is now the biggest partner of the United States, it's ironic, right? The biggest partner of the United States in the Middle East, you know, was doing that blackmail in that time. If that would have lasted 3 more months, Japan and Germany economies would have collapsed. What happened? In November, just the next month, October 1973, November 1973, Richard Nixon signed the Project Independence 1980. Richard Nixon thought in that time that the United States would be independent of Middle Eastern oil in 1980. All those presidents, I have read all the messages to the nation and to the main Congress of the Commission of Energy on Oil, Hydrocarbon Resources on the White House in the Congress. All the following presidents wanted to decline the dependency or minimize the dependency of the United States with the Middle East oil production. All of them have failed. Even if you look in YouTube, the promise of Barack Obama in the latest elections, when he said, I promise we're going to end the relationship with the Middle East because we have too many problems here, we cannot depend on them, fail. The gas prices are skyrocketing in the United States. And it's cheaper in comparison with other countries. That affect the economy, that affect many things. Then you have here that in that time they spent about $25 billion. And then under Gerald Ford, it started with a 20% oil increase, the demand of increase in the United States, just one president after Nixon. And it was until today, like snowball. Nobody can control that. But what you have, but the Iraq war cost $3 trillion to the American budget. $3 trillion. $3 trillion. What you have in 1973, between 1975 at the end of this slide, E.T. contests worldwide as a sociological experiment. I see it as a sociological experiment. Because as I tell you, and I use you as an example, excuse me, if you have a contact, because you are Norwegian, it's a different perspective. It's not the same like Enrique Castillo Rincon. It's not the same like Billy Mayer. It's not the same that, you know, the Rama Contacti group in Peru, in my country, because we have a different social fabric. We're Catholics. It's different. We're more religious. We believe in magic and religion, and people in Latin America believe in the Mother Earth, in Pachamama, in the power places. We have ancient civilization, the Aztec, the Mayans, the Incas, and others as well. So it's different background. Therefore, we understand it different. Okay? And if you look how our belief system shape reality or understand reality, is very interesting what's going on with different research. There is a neuroscientist, if I'm not wrong, his name is Michael Persinger. He's an American working at the University of Alberta in Canada, if I'm not wrong, and he had developed a so-called God helmet. God helmet, it's very interesting. What he does is this. He chooses a person, and say, please come here, what is your background? Let's say you believe in Krishna, okay? And all right. So he put you in an isolated chamber, you know, with a helmet attached to magnets, attached to a device. And what he does, he leaves you alone in this place, in this office, completely sealed, where you're relaxed with the God helmet here, wearing the God helmet with magnets attached to this device, and he just manipulates electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves. And if the gentleman believes in Krishna, in his perception, he will see Krishna. But if he's Catholic, he will see the Virgin Mary. But if he's from Japan or Asia, he will see Buddha. And he's a non-believer, he goes back to childhood memories when he had his first time with his mother, after the delivering of the baby, the moment of pure love. Very interesting. So you need a different vision of this reality in different ethnic groups or society to understand much better this and to spread the message to each people within time. But if you go through the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, what happened? What I mentioned at the very beginning of my lecture, disruptive technologies, the internet. So they were waiting that sooner or later, we're going to find ways of mass communication and to spread the word. And if you look at the latest polls of the most credible agencies, the people, when they ask, do you believe there is ET present and it's real? 60%, more than 50+% believe yes. We're not alone in the universe. That means since the very beginning, let's go back again, since the very beginning, when Kenneth Arnold coined the term flying saucer, has happened as a period of 60 years, now people are believing more on the ET presence. So this is a long-term plan in order to adapt ourselves as a species, as a culture, to a new reality. But it's a complex reality. And I'm going to explain that on my lecture tomorrow, how an ethnocentric reality can be in contact with what? An extraterrestrial, right? But what is an extraterrestrial reality? Is a superpower? Is a hyperpower? Or is a metapower? What are the qualities and level of access and influence of a metapower? It's very complex. We have heard the term metapolitics, okay? Meta-diplomacy. Well, we have to deal with a metapower. But it's not from the Earth, it's alien. How that can affect our biggest and most developed country, a superpower like the United States? The connection is very interesting, but it's also rich and complex. And I will explain that tomorrow, not today. So if you want to support my research, that's my book, ET Presence, Role of the USA and New World Visions, written by Renato Longato, which is me. So that's the end of my lecture. I really appreciate this invitation and opportunity to follow my research of all these 3 decades that started after I have these experiences and led me to do many brainstorms and to understand through experiences, not by myself only, with people who have been able to encounter this magnificent reality that is happening here, because there is a powerful reason behind this. Let me tell you one more thing before I finish. Isn't that coincidental that the only country who have esoteric symbols in the most popular currency is the United States? The all-seeing eye, the pyramid with 13 levels, the Novus Ordum Secularum, the new ages to come. People say, no, it's the new world order. We're going to be conquered by the bad ETs. Be fearful. Think about it. Remember, emotional response block common sense. Got it? Emotional response triggers that dopamine, and we jump into it. HARP is going to destroy, us, right? But HARP is never used against Syria, against Iraq, against Afghanistan. HARP is a cultural weapon, in my opinion. Okay? No, we're going to be invaded. Don't worry. Remember, it's going to be invaded. It's going to be Los Angeles and New York. You don't have to worry about it. Okay? No, this is going to happen. The ETs are going to conquer the world. Wait a minute. Have you heard about this book, Alien Invasion, that was written in 1947 by the British author? And he used to work as a British intelligence service. This is all story being recycled. But we don't know that, because we're wasting our time what the system wants us to believe. The more you believe this stuff, the more you believe in these aliens that are going to invade us and all this stuff, we get lost. We lost critical thinking. We have emotional response. We understand this new reality, because this reality is coming whether we like it or not. Because sooner or later, my friend, we need new sources of energy in order to go to our next door neighbor planet, which is Mars, Venus, and everything. And instead of pollute the Earth, we need to extract minerals. We need to extract water or whatever other things we need in society in order to have a self-sustainable planet and not destroying it. And we need help with someone else, someone more evolved than us, that can offer us a new reality. But no, we want to think always the worst. And we're wasting our time with a new reality that can work, that can really come sooner or later in our society. So this is a long-term agenda to shape the collective consciousness that could have not happened before, because now we have this technology, now the internet, known as YouTube, known as Google. So anybody who have access to this, which almost everybody have, can record a UFO. Sometimes there are hoaxes, the real ones, and put in YouTube. And you see the responses of people. Yeah, I seen this. I saw that. People start to change. Immediately start to believe this is a possibility, that we're not alone. And that's a good first step to understand a new and higher reality that is merging into ours. And that is what, ironically, the United States is playing with fire, in a time bomb in their hands, because they are trying to practically censor everything, keep the power under an illusion, under Maya, as people say, an illusion that they can do it the long time and any time they want. But it's not, because the ones who are in power of contact is not the human race, is the superior than the extraterrestrial. Thank you very much for your attention. Any questions, please? Do I convince everybody here? Don't forget, if you can, this is my research, and there's plenty of information about this, of the other subjects as well. I talk about metacosmic power, the beginning of the UFO research, to understand in the big picture what's going on. Yeah.
Is Castillo Rincon still having contacts? Mr. Rincon in Bogota, do you know if he still maintain contact?
I talked to him by phone 3 years ago. He's living in Venezuela right now. He was having a hard time under Chavez regime. Not that he was persecuted by Chavez, but the economy over there is terrible. And according to Enrique Castillo Rincon, if he can change his past, he will change it, because it affected his family relationship in a high degree. He divorced. He lost contact with one, members of his family. It was at the same time an extraordinary experience, but at the same time a painful one. If he's offered again, according to his own words, if I'm not wrong, the experience to have again to see them, he will not go there anymore.
He has made his job. Now he has done his mission through. He has written some books on.
Yes, he has written books. He's still in contact with people who wants to know about this. He's doing a work of awareness that we're not alone in the universe. He spread the message of the message he received from the Pleiadians, if I'm not wrong, and all the experiences that he have through 4 encounters with them, how everything happens, what he got, the knowledge he got gained all these years, which is valuable because he's an open book. He's still alive. For how long is he going to do that? I don't know. I lost contact with him. Yeah. Other question, please? Yes.
Contact will not happen until we have an example of harmonized coexistence.
I agree with you. As a matter of fact, that's the subject I'm going to talk tomorrow. Because if we're looking for contact, if I am an extraterrestrial and I contact you, there are going to be consequences whether we like it or not. Because it's part of when you deal with reality, there are consequences, right? Good or wrong or whatever. So if we're going to have a contact, if we, the humanity, and the leaders are going to receive one day someone's going to knock the door and say, we want to talk to you, perhaps going to be a multinational effort, which United States has to be included. Because scientists and other people who are knowledgeable about this situation, they know that the United States has to be present because of its weight and power and influence in the world. It's difficult, but that's part of the reality of this.
I think when the example is set, the rest will follow. So we are ambassadors and we need to set just one little example of coexistence, harmonized coexistence. I believe.
I think that the possibilities are the scenarios that this could happen. There are many scenarios that could happen. I have pictured the ideal one, which I don't think is the only one by themselves. I have to be open-minded to the situation that will happen in the near future, and how are we going to respond. In my opinion, I humble opinion is, how are we going to respond to this? How is it going to face the public opinion? How are we going to deliver a message? Through the United Nations? You know, to what? To CNN? Who's going to do it? Barack Obama, the Secretary of the United Nations, or the Pope? Have to be something else. Because this extraordinary event demands extraordinary circumstances also to be able to respond.
When it comes to history, I just want to mention every war since the 1600s it started with one family name, often on both sides. So all United Nations, all these things are the same wrapping. The Roman Empire goes on. They use the same symbols. Catholic Church, Roman Empire, it's the same shape. 7 countries before year 2000 did not have a federal bank system. Cuba, Somalia, or African country, most important, Iraq, Syria, Libya. Yeah, now we see the picture.
Well, but you know, what's happening is that we're facing the incredible stress, international stress of financial markets going down. So history is, you know, is doing by itself at the same time. You know, yes, Cuba is not attached to the World Bank, to the International Monetary Fund, but I have friends that used to live in Cuba. It's not nice. Okay? No, let's go there. Let's go there. You don't have free press there.
No, but
you have to buy. Yeah, but I know we're leaving a little bit the subject, but we have to realize one thing. Imagine yourself have one ration of 1 kilogram of meat per month, and toilet paper, 2 toilet paper for family per month.
At least you know the research object.
And but the problem is here. The problem is here, my friend. You know, that's what I asked, and I asked myself, and I gave it, you know, told the public at the beginning of my lecture. A contactee works in Cuba. A contactee is always from the middle class. It's not rich, it's not poor. The rich have too many toys to be entertaining. The poor have to survive every day with crisis trying to face and feed his family. It's the middle class, the middlemen, the John Doe, the Ann Smith that have to deal with this. They have the capability and the education to spread the message. So it's very calculated. It's very well coordinated, the way they have done it. And as also said, you know, show me an African American or black contactee, or an Asian, which I would like to know. So the profile of the contactees are Hispanic and whites, mostly. Just what happened also, and explaining in my book about what Terji was talking about that yesterday, what happened in Mexico with the vigilantes, and after the eclipse in 1991, I have related to the Mayan calendar, that happened before. In not other countries. I've been in Mexico 3 times. I've been with the vigilantes. We have done UFO Skywatch. Unbelievable what's going on there. People are very open to that. At the same time, Latin American culture are open to the magical religious belief, different from other part of the world. So they were able to do that. You have more than 22 countries that have released UFO files around the world, but most of them are also, you know, few of them are European, but almost all countries in Latin America have embraced that through the armed forces. There are pilots that are allowed to publish about aeronautics and ufology while in service and give lectures about this, and they are not losing their status. Why? Because there is an open mind. Why this not happening in the United States? It's bizarre what's going on. But at the same time, people get educated. So we think, now is the education and all these opportunities are in the United States. Really weird, because it's happening in other countries, in developing countries. And you find something else. I'm going to tell you something else. In developing countries, they don't have weapons of mass destruction. And the GDP is growing 4 and 8%, like never in history, the economy, because they are rich in natural resources. And they're rich in what else? Cultural background. You can find people there that can cultivate, like it happened 500 or 300 years ago, without pesticides or herbicides. Where in other places, you need hydrocarbon derivatives, which are more expensive, which change, you know, the prices of the food, because that's the way it is. It's very interesting what is happening. And you have people already living in communities, in places where they can be self-sufficient because things are changing. And they're trying to, save the euro, right? They're trying to save the dollar, right? For how long? Think, for how long? At the same time, behind the curtains, you have the ET presence. So it's to think. It's to make, a deep thought. To think about this and how our lives can be touched by this higher reality. Well,
Solution.
thank you very much.